Speaking of Israel, they're expanding their ground operation in Gaza as thousands of civilians attempt to flee the region. Tensions are escalating as well on the border with Lebanon as Israeli troops clash with Hezbollah forces. So there's a lot going on. And despite calls from world leaders, there's no signs that Benjamin Netanyahu is slowing down in his assault on Gaza. Should he be slowing down, or is he right to just keep pushing forward?
I think Israel has every right to try to destroy Hamas. You know, war is hell. War is always hell. The war in Gaza is hell, and there is an enormous amount of suffering there. No one is going to deny that. But I think a lot of the Western media coverage overlooks the fact that Hamas started this war with its pogrom in southern Israel on 7th of October. It's also refusing to end the war by, firstly, returning the Israeli hostages, and secondly, by surrendering on Israel's terms, which is what Hamas ought to be doing. It is the weaker party in this conflict, but it's refusing to surrender. And in fact, Hamas has made it perfectly clear that it will carry on attacking Israel and it will launch more 7th of Octobers. They've said that on numerous occasions over the past few weeks. So I think the Western activists and the Western journalists who are calling for a ceasefire now, they're not actually calling for a ceasefire. They're calling for Israel to capitulate.
Right.
They want Israel to capitulate to a movement that is violently anti-Semitic and which has promised to attack Israelis again. So no other state in the world would be expected to live next door to a violent racist movement that threatened to kill its civilians. And yet somehow the woke West expects Israel to put up with precisely that situation. They should be honest. They want Israel to surrender to the fascists of Hamas. That is what they are calling for when they say there should be a ceasefire right now. I think Israel has the right to pursue this terrorist movement. I wish there weren't so many civilian casualties. War is hell, which is why when this war ends with Hamas's defeat, that will be a great day.
Well, I mean, it's even worse than just capitulating with a ceasefire. The Egyptians have come up with a peace plan that includes Hamas having some sort of role in the ongoing governance of Gaza. Can you believe it? Now, the Israelis are considering parts of that plan by the Egyptians, particularly as pertaining the release of hostages. But you can see the pressure now building against Israel. France are pushing hard for a complete ceasefire. And it beggars belief that the world would seriously suggest not just a ceasefire, as you've so eloquently explained why that's a stupid move, but for an ongoing role of Hamas in Gaza.
You know, I really fear that the world is turning its back on Israel. I think that's what we're seeing. And I know everyone says, well, America loves Israel and gives it money and weapons, etc., and the West supports Israel. I'm not sure that's entirely true. I do think there is a sense of cowardice and creeping into Western capitals who now look at Israel and think, God, do we have to put up with this pesky little country? I do sense that attitude coming through amongst Western politicians, including in France, but also to a certain extent in the UK and even the US, where Biden has told Israel to essentially calm things down and try to come to some kind of arrangement. I think one problem that we face, and this is a difficult thing to say, but it is true, is that we now live in societies that don't really know what war is like and don't really think that anything is worth fighting a war for. That's the kind of societies we now live in. War is a distant memory for most of us in the West. We don't know what it's like to have to fight street battles with an enemy that wants to destroy your country and destroy your religion. We don't know what that's like, and yet we think we can dictate to Israel about how it should conduct itself in just such a conflict. You know, John Stuart Mill, the great liberal thinker of 19th century England, he said, war is an ugly thing, but it's not the ugliest things. Thinking that nothing is worth a war is even worse. And I think those are words to live by as we look at Israel and as it fights to defend its own existence. And we shouldn't be so quick to rush to judge Israel for doing what it thinks is right.